Not in a million years did I expect that shocking revelation / connection to Elbaf, the Giant's homeland. Wow. So we're getting a flashback. In before we feel very bad for Big Mom. In before a lot of tragedy and sadness. That's just what I want to state right now before we get into the flashback arc. So, before I begin, FYI, if you didn't see the final part of this chapter, One Piece is on break next week. So that means no chapter next week. So when, next week comes around, you're wondering where the chapter's at, it's not coming out. Because, as we know, One Piece usually goes on break after a couple weeks. Oda needs his breaks. He has a really bad schedule, like, in terms of sleep schedule, work schedule. So this man needs his breaks when he gets them. So if you're wondering and you didn't see it, no chapter One Piece next week. It is on break. So with that out of the way, Big Mom is remembering Mother Caramel. 63 years ago, Elbaf, the land of the giants. I am very curious about this, because this is honestly something I didn't think we would get from this arc. I mean, we know Big Mom has a connection with the giants. We know she wants to make giants. We know that her daughter, messed this up. We know all about these little details and how she has a lot of, hatred that she couldn't have that marriage with one of the giants and all that. It got messed up. And so we know that there's something going on there. However, I did not think that Mother Caramel would be that connected to Elbaf. Something that has been built up since the beginning of One Piece. Like, I remember when I was watching the anime, okay? When I was catching up to One Piece. And I remember that being mentioned for the first time. I don't know what episode it was. I don't remember. I'm not even going to say I remember what episode or whatever. But it was a very, very long time ago. And we know about the homeland's name. We know that's the land of the giants. We know Usopp wants to go there one day. That's a part of his dream. And it's something we've all been kind of curious about. We wanted to see. And we've been slowly getting details throughout these recent arcs of One Piece. And finally, after all of this time, Oda is finally going to give us some details to Elbaf. And I'm extremely excited, because I've always wanted to see it. I've always wanted to see exactly what is happening here. For instance, it's been built up for so long. It's one of those things that connect to one of the crew members' dreams and all that. For instance, Usopp. I really wanted to know exactly kind of what's going on there. And finally, after all of this time, Oda-sensei is going to be delivering that. So I'm very curious to see what it actually looks like, the entire island and all of that. So Flashback is going to be interesting. I mean, I wonder how long the flashback is going to last. I mean, is it going to be like a 5 to 10 chapter, long flashback, or is it going to be a chapter or two, long flashback? I'm very curious on how long, Oda wants to take this, because obviously from going into the, this part of this arc, this flashback that's going to be focusing on Mother Caramel and Big Mom, we could only assume that this is going to offer a lot of clarification to why Big Mom acts like she does, why she's willing to harm her own children, why she's willing to go so far for the giants, why she, even started this in the first place with this wedding with the Vin smokes and all that. And now we're probably going to finally get some details to why she would go to such lengths to do something like this. And finally, Oda is giving these details. So I can't wait. I wonder how much I'm going to like Big Mom's character once everything is done with this upcoming flashback. So with all that out of the way, okay, enough talking about the final page, I want to take a moment to really say how much I loved that Sanji panel. You know what panel I'm talking about. I don't think I need to describe it, but I am anyways. When Sanji was on the table, you see the flames coming out of his feet and all that. I mean, you just see his father, Judge, just look up at him. You see tears and all that. I'm like, how does it feel? How does it feel, Judge? You're crying like a little baby in last week's chapter. You throw your own son under the bus and all that. And you're wondering why your children are all messed up in the head, why they have no emotions. And then you see your son, the one you said was a failure, the one you didn't love, the one you didn't care about, the one you threw under the bus, is the one that's saving you, because he has feelings, because he has emotions, because he understands, he cares about you. And that entire event right there, when Sanji stood up, and he was on the table, I mean, he was just looking, that was one of the best panels of the chapter, because it just concretes the fact that Judge was completely wrong, and Judge just ate everything, all his words that he said to Sanji. He realized how he fucked up. Very good stuff from Oda when it came to that panel. Just seeing that entire scene with Sanji just standing up, looking down at his father. But before that happened, though, Reiju, Sanji's sister. Oh my, that development was spot on. So to go into details, basically, Reiju, she starts to think in her mind, like, you know, pretty much it's GG. Like, there's no way, most likely, they're gonna probably get out of here. They're probably still going to die and all that. But in her mind, she's like, I still cannot believe Sanji would go this far. Someone that, you know, was casted out, someone that, you know, was mistreated, someone that was abused by his own family, would still come back to save us. Some people like us. And when Reiju's stating this in her mind, she's like, I've been very ashamed and upset with my, you know, family, myself, being related to the Vinsmokes and all that. But knowing that you would go so far and there's such goodness inside of you, I'm saved. That basically says Reiju's like, thanks to you, I'm able to move on. Like, she is basically saying, I'm willing to accept death. I can die in peace knowing that you are such a good person, my brother. That beautiful scene. Very beautiful scene. Just seeing how Reiju went through that development right there. But also, I wonder if Reiju can go through something like that. I wonder what Judge is going to feel once he finally talks with his son. I'm very curious. I'm very curious to see what he says. I wonder if he's going to say sorry, or if he's going to be still stuck up in an asshole. I'm very curious to what he will say to Sanji, because if Reiju's saying something like that, I'm curious to see what Judge is going to say. So, Big Mom, she finally wells. She finally cries out, and which initiates, you know, the flashback I was talking about a second ago. So she finally wells and knocks out a bunch of people, and to my surprise, I'm very surprised, the bird dude, Mogan or whatever his name is, he did not get knocked out. From my understanding, I could be wrong there, forgive me if I am wrong, but to my understanding, the panel when Big Mom was, you know, yelling and all that, knocking people out, it seemed like he was covering his ears, but it didn't seem like he fell over unconscious. So, the man that's like, big news, he didn't get knocked out. So I'm like, are you serious right now? Like, this man did not get knocked out. Like, I highly underestimated this man. I was actually just laughing and joking about because of how this man was. But to know he didn't get knocked out from Big Mom's yell, this man's really fucking good at his job. Like, I'm not even gonna joke. Like, this man is really good to be able to stay awake through that from a Yonko's well like that, and to continue to basically report, because I want to bet you right now, this man, next chapter, if he has his hearing back, he's gonna say, this is big news, Big Mom yelled and all that, big news. I want to bet you this man will say something like that. Like, I'm willing to put money on that, because if he is still conscious by the time next chapter comes around and all that, I could see him doing that. I definitely could. So yeah, the man is pretty tanky. I didn't think he would survive that, but also all the Vinsmokes are pretty much up and about. A couple others are up and about. I mean, there's just some certain, you know, characters that did manage to make it through Big Mom's yell, and I'm very curious to see exactly what's going to happen. I mean, Katakuri is very worried. We know for a fact this man is sweating bullets. Like, he had, you know, he was white as a sheet in last week's chapter, so it must have been very bad. So whatever's about to happen is probably not going to be good, because we gotta remember, what's going on probably next chapter is just a flashback, so it's not really continuing the events of whatever happened after Big Mom's yell. So all we know is, soon as, you know, the flashback ends, Big Mom might go into some complete fit, and she just starts killing everyone around her. Something like that could happen. So we don't know if she's just going to sit there, take damage from the rockets or not. We don't know if everything's going to go according to plan, because everything has been going way too smoothly when you think about it. I mean, the entire plan, even though it's been changed a tiny bit, overall, everything's been going too well. So something is bound to happen that's going to be very bad in the future of the upcoming chapters. I'm just curious to see where Oda wants to take that. So, yeah. How do you all feel about this chapter? How do you feel about what happened to, you know, some of our characters in this chapter? How do you feel about Judge getting to eat his words? How do you feel about Reiju saying she's saved? What about big news? He's like, big news! He's still up and all that. And about I mean, how do you feel about all the events happening in this chapter? How do you feel about the fabled Elbaf, you know, finally going to be getting some details in the future? Please be honest in the comments below, and I love you all so much. Please be safe. Chibi out.